What do you think of when you hear the word fear? A definition of the word? An emotion? A movie? Game, perhaps? Roller coasters? Death-defying acts? Maybe that one time you had a close brush with death. No matter what you think of, there's always a general feeling associated with the concept. A perceived sense of danger causes biological processes in your body to change. Accelerated heart rate, hyperventilation, goosebumps due to muscle contraction, sweating, an influx of adrenaline, that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach. Fear is an unsettling concept to think about, and triggers some primal responses in humans that are usually learned due to experience. But now that we've set the mood, we can throw all that shit out the window and talk about the important stuff: fear in video games. When it comes to human experience, for some dumbass reason, we like to scare ourselves in controlled situations. Sure, humans find skydiving scary, but we have control over the situation and are, more than likely, going to be okay afterwards.
Peggy? Oh!
This is the reason that scary games do so well and why there's an entire category of video games that are devoted to horror. The whole point of these games is basically you're a dumbass who is just trying to survive a really fucked up situation. The term survival horror was first coined for the Resident Evil franchise and was then placed upon earlier entries into the genre such as Alone in the Dark. After a while, these games evolved to include a more diverse variety of genres and opened up the survival horror genre into other tags such as action horror. One concept that remains the same in life and in horror games is that you, the player, are just trying not to fucking die. While this is a main part of almost every single video game, horror games set a goal to truly fuck with the emotions of the player. In Mario, you touch a Goomba and, damn it, I died. No real sense of consequence other than just losing one of many lives. Horror games take that same encounter between the player and the enemy and turn that shit up to 11 by limiting the power available to the player. In Halo, you've got the objectively terrifying aliens, but because you're a bad motherfucker who has access to a literal suit of armor and a wide arsenal, the concept of fear is diminished because you can fight back. Horror games limit the amount of fighting that you can do with enemies, reverting the player's basic human instinct to default to another F. Friend is another response humans have towards potential threats, and usually in video games this is a moot point because if you try to befriend the enemy, they're just gonna beat your ass. The next is flight, which most people will probably be familiar with. You know when you see that big-ass monster staring you down after opening up a door and you've only got 2 bullets so you know you're fucked? What do? Run your dumbass back to a safe place. It is this emphasis on non-combat that forces the player to use other means to achieve their goals. When you're going through Resident Evil 7 for the first time on the hardest difficulty, that shit's scary as hell. You don't have any bullets, you don't know what's coming next, and you're basically staring into an unknown void. But then, when you beat the game and start a new file and have infinite ammo, the game's a fucking cakewalk, and it isn't scary at all. The perceived sense of danger is removed on a playthrough where you have so much more power and knowledge. This isn't the only way to make a game invoke a sense of fear in a player, though. Think of some of the scariest shit you've ever seen. Chances are you thought of an enemy from a game. When it comes to making a truly terrifying enemy in a video game, there are a few key points a developer has to hit. Uniqueness is important for any character, but is especially critical when it comes to invoking fear. Just the mere presence of these well-designed enemies can strike fear into the player. Think of all the no-name zombies that you've seen in all sorts of media. Meh out of 10, at best. Then think of some of the more unique enemy designs you've seen. Pyramid Head, Lickers, Clickers, the Twins, Regenerators, that goddamn doll that follows you in Genma Onimusha, those little babies from Dead Space, Jesus fucking Christ. All these characters are memorable because they're unique and have some basis set in reality. Then take these enemies and compare them to the shit zombies that are thrown about in so many games. See the difference? Sure, there are some simple enemies who can still invoke fear, but they underutilize their presence and use the environment to compensate. Most environments in spooky games are things like Scary Mansion, Scary House, Scary Woods, Scary Spaceship, Scary Mansion, Scary Castle, Scary Pizza Place, Scary Mansion, Scary Mansion. Seriously, what the fuck with the mansions? Many of these environments utilize lighting, music, and confined spaces to cause a sense of stress in the player, limiting the movement options and vision of whatever spooky shit is hiding in the dark. Some games even have a fixed camera that limits the player's vision, creating blind spots in the environment unless you're standing in a specific area. However, this feeling of environment can also be used to create a sense of relief in the player. You know when you walk into a room and you hear that light music come on and you just think, Jesus Christo, I can finally get a fucking break. That's the developer providing contrast between high-stress situations and relaxing situations. But this doesn't mean that this is always the case when you're quote-unquote safe. See this shit? It makes my dick rock fucking hard because in a moment when you're able to take a breather and prepare yourself for the next room, the game gives you a big fat nope and you're thrown into another high stress scenario. This unexpected bait and switch really puts the player on edge. Which leads me into my next point. Different types of scare tactics. There's the obvious one, jump scares, and these are really the lowest form of scaring someone. Just having something pop into frame accompanied by a loud noise. Five Nights at Fuckboys. Jump scares have already been talked to death by many other people, so I'm not going to talk more about those because they're weak in my opinion. However, they can be used in tandem with a better emotion, panic. Sure, Fred Boy gives you a scare, but after that there's nothing. You just have to start over. But in Resident Evil, for example, you get the little jump scare, but then the player is thrown into a panic because now they have to deal with a new threat. Having to reorient yourself and keep your cool is difficult when you've just been hit with that adrenaline spike. Another way to really fuck with your players is to invoke terror. This is done by creating a feeling of dread and anticipation that builds up to the scare that the player expects to come. This includes all of your, God damn it, he's standing right behind me, isn't he? Moments in video games. Playing Slenderman feels so scary because you know he's out there, watching, waiting, slowly creeping up on you, and the anxiety and terror builds up in the player as they collect more pages. Then, once you accidentally turn too far or just slip up a little bit, you go into the full, holy fuck, he's right there mode. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts on spooky games. Halloween is coming up, so I thought this was a pretty appropriate subject matter. I just wanted to play some spooky shit. Let me know what games make you go poopy in your panties, and until next time, peace. Fuck.